do not look over Japan. And you've mentioned regenerative
Oh,
medicine. You've
yeah.
mentioned technology is good, but I'd love a little bit more concrete. Like, why Japan?
Well, there may be also. So I would say number one, because at the end of the day, we talk about BD. As I said, BD is science, right? And Japan again has absolutely is top, on par with Europe and all the big R&D, powerhouses in the world. Number two, to some extent, as you said, maybe they should take advantage more in a way of the weakness of the yen and try to stimulate more US companies to come to the US to do R&D, to do collaborative projects in Japan, because it will be cheaper. There is also an operational thing, which is actually one of the particularities in Japan, and I believe it's the same in Singapore for sure, and in South Korea, is clinical trials. They have early stage companies in Japan that already have clinical trial data. Okay, maybe only 10, 15 subjects, but that's a lot more than a lot of startups in Boston have, because they would have to spend $100 million before they get human data. So you have these things that have to be a bit, put more forward in terms of maybe, why not collaborate with a US company and actually do clinical trials in Japan? And then in terms of the science, regenerative medicine, but it's, it's not just that. I mean, it's all the top, therapeutic areas, antibodies and, antibody mimetics and ADCs and bispecifics. It's regenerative medicine, stem cells, oncology. And I remember when we first met, so you mentioned that there is a problem in Japan, which is very specific, which is there are drugs that are approved worldwide that are not accessible to Japanese patients, which is there's a gap, right? There is a lack of drugs, of new drugs to treat Japanese patients. Wouldn't they be excited to collaborate with Japan, do clinical trials in Japan, and then later, I'm thinking BD, you can give a territorial, do a deal with a Japanese company and then bring new drugs to Japan where they have the territory in Asia, and then they keep, US and Europe from themselves, where they could deal with big pharma in the US. So you have to think more this bilateral angle to actually leverage the aces that they have in Asia.
I'll add one more thing before I get into the final question about why Japan, and that is the cultural aspects of the Japanese people as a whole, and in general in Asia, but I would say Japan is especially strong, and that is the reliability and the integrity and the honesty, and of this people.